Awesome, thank you.
Great, good morning. Welcome to the September 14th Transit Technical Advisory Committee. Let's go ahead and get started with introductions. I will read off the names as I see them. On the screen, we have Drew Nichols with SCTA. I'm Dana Teray with SCTA. Stephen Schmitz, Sonoma County Transit. Suzanne Smith, SCTA. Rachel Eade, Santa Rosa City Bus. Matt Wilcox, Santa Rosa City Bus. Ray Atkinson, Petaluma Transit. Jacob Brown, Golden Gate Transit. Jared Hall, Petaluma Transit. Ross Clendenden, SCTA, RCPA. Emily Betts, SMART. Chris Barney, SCTA. Steve Bertelbaugh, Sonoma County Transportation and Land Use Coalition. And did I miss anyone there? All right, let's move on to item number 2. Is there any public comment on items that are not on the agenda? Not today. All right, and I see David Ripperda from SCTA is joining us as well. All right, next item is approval of the meeting notes from August 10th. Does anyone have any comments or corrections on the notes?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Stephen. Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 3. Last month, we had some folks from Solano Transportation Authority present on the State Route 37 Transit and Rideshare Implementation Plan. I've attached the link from the presentation from last month's agenda, just in case anybody wants to reference it. But they were looking for some feedback on the proposals, the different options that were proposed in the presentation, and they had some flexibility on time for getting that feedback to them, but said that they would appreciate if we kind of consolidated feedback. So, you know, if your agency wants to submit feedback directly to STA, that's fine, but it would also be great if we could have a discussion here and I could collect feedback and send them consolidated summary. So we can start that discussion as well. I also sent around a spreadsheet to the transit operators looking at the some travel demand data, some O&D pairs from the various cities in Solano, Napa, Sonoma, and Marin counties. And so hopefully some folks had a chance to look at that as well. I can certainly share it on my screen, although it's kind of large and long, so it might be hard to look at. But I'll just open it up right now for comment and input on what was presented last month.
So if I apologize, I was not at the meeting last month and I did review the presentation, but I guess the one question I had just from a Santa Rosa perspective and in light of the OD pairs information that was shared, was there discussion of not just, you know, the concept of getting folks from Solano County to Novato or San Rafael, but also how to then get folks to points north like Petaluma and Santa Rosa? Was that part of the discussion, or is that sort of yet to be, you know, further discussed potentially by the operators in this group?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of where we should focus our discussion. The 2 options that were presented were both in Marin County for endpoints on the west side of the corridor, and you know, Daryl Halls said that we can certainly provide feedback saying that, you know, if you think that there's a reason to have an option that is north of Novato, and makes a connection for people traveling into Sonoma County more easily. So, you know, the two options presented don't have to be the only options there are. If folks want to propose another option for people traveling north.
I can weigh in on this. You know, I did request the data from STA because I wanted to understand what was going on better. I think it's tricky because if you're coming from Fairfield or something to Santa Rosa or Petaluma, you're probably going to head up Lakeville Highway. And I don't think this data really captures that. And I'm also not clear if the data captures people who would be coming over on 116, right? Like, is this just origin destination data? Because if you map yourself from Vacaville or something to Santa Rosa, it's not going to send you down 37 to Novato and up 101. So I think that's one concern with trying to make that the ultimate goal. You know, I think there's also a case to be made for a one-seat ride as much as possible, right? Clearly, many people who are traveling on 37 are not going to destinations on the SMART corridor. Don't quote me on that. But a good chunk of them probably are just like workers with trucks, right? Headed off like to the north to fix things. So it's, even if, say, San Rafael were only 25% of total destinations, if you can offer those people a one-seat ride to a major employment destination, you may be getting the best bang for your buck on the bus. Regardless of where the bus goes, I think it's going to stop at a SMART station so people can go north or south on SMART. I also think if there were a major employment destination in Novato that could be served, like maybe that area around, help me out here, there's all that biotech near Highway 37, you know, maybe that could be the endpoint after it loops through Hamilton. But yeah, I looked into this because I'm kind of torn about what the recommendation should be. 60% of the destinations in Santa Rosa suggests north, but I do think from a transit planning perspective, you want to offer the best service, the best bang for the buck. So that's my thoughts on that.
I'll chime in and echo what Emily had to say. When I took a look at this, the same thought came about San Rafael, in that once you require a transfer, then you start losing a lot of people. So it makes more sense. My 2 cents is, if we're providing feedback on alternative 1 versus alternative 2, that it does make a lot more sense to have San Rafael to Vallejo. And I had one other thought and I've lost it, but I'll let other people chime in and come back to you.
I need to take a closer look through the data myself. I definitely see your point, Emily. Are we talking more about kind of the corridor of 37 or kind of the origin trip pairs to and from Petaluma to those areas? It's not necessarily completely analogous. I like the thought of having a one-seat ride connecting that at some point, but I agree that 37 may not be the most logical corridor there. So overall, I need to take a closer look through it. I think we'll probably provide you with some comments, Dana, if we're doing a consolidated one.
Yeah, I suppose that we could ask more information about this data and figure out if it is specifically on the 37 corridor or if it is a true origin destination. My guess is that it is a true origin destination, you know, with a significant number of trips actually ending in Santa Rosa, where going all the way across 37 wouldn't be the logical route. There's still a significant trips ending there. So my guess is that it is a true origin destination.
Well, that was my other thought. Thanks, Dana. Is that it says on the OD spreadsheet, it says 101 corridor points for the area. So I don't know if that. I mean, we should get clarification from put this together, but it seems like it's coming to and from the 101 corridor.
Another thought would be to have one, you could alternate buses. One could go south to San Rafael and one north up the 101 to Petaluma or Santa Rosa. You know, this project is the timeline is pretty long and the budget is pretty big. And I think asking for what would be ideal at this point, maybe we could start there in terms of recommendations. I don't think they're looking for a 2-bus proposal, but if we're thinking about what would serve the North Bay the best, it might be something like that. So, just throwing that out.
I like that idea. Yeah.
And I think there's also an opportunity to partner with SSJPA on the Amtrak Thruway Route 7 too, as well, beefing up that service, which already used Lakeville Highway and 116 to Vallejo. There may be a way to do that as kind of the branch route rather than splitting service.
Hmm. Or maybe there's also a way to ensure that Golden Gate Transit Service is coordinated with whatever transit service connection from Nevada to Vallejo is established. I mean, throw that in as a recommendation. That's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah,
and smart.
Yeah, I was just going to say for Golden Gate, David couldn't be here this morning. He's at another meeting, but he did leave me some comments to share. And Dana, he'll definitely reach out to you with more thorough comments. But yeah, among the things he wrote here was talking about recommending a Western terminus at Hamilton Smart, and then having an intermediate stop at Ignacio Bus Pad to provide transfer opportunities to Golden Gate and Marin Transit.
And so
And
that,
oh, go
I'm
ahead.
guessing that would be more local service at the Ignacio stop.
Yeah, I believe so. I think he said here they're unlikely to generate much ridership, but so the configuration would rely heavily on people transferring to Smart to complete their journeys.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I missed the presentation, but I wonder if they're underestimating their ridership because the induced demand factor is going to mean that the 90-minute wait time for single occupancy vehicles is probably going to continue regardless of how many people decide to use the HOV lane. And so I think the time differential for people riding the bus versus people that have to wait in a single occupancy vehicle may mean that more people will look to transit rather than spending that 90 minutes there. Did they discuss that?
I don't think they discussed that specifically. Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. This is kind of a long-term plan, and changes are, there'll be changes by the time this happens, right? That are a little bit unpredictable. But I guess that is the hope, right? That there will be, people will be incentivized to consider transit.
Well, yeah, the Air Resources Board is talking about a 22% reduction in VMT. So I think that's going to move a certain number of people out of their cars and into transit.
Thanks, Steve. All right, well, I don't think they gave us an exact deadline, but I think they said that they would like feedback the end of September. So if all of you, are interested in giving written feedback, I mean, I could certainly summarize the ideas and concerns that we've talked about here. But if you want to also provide some written feedback and want to send that directly to me to include in a summary, if you could do that by, let's see, the Monday the 26th, the end of the day, that would be great. And then I could put that into a summary and send it over to Solano Transportation Authority.
So yeah, thanks, Dana, for doing that. And you'll obviously redistribute it to us all to review.
Yes, the summary. You can do
Yeah.
that. All right, any other comments or feedback on this item? All right, so yeah, if you want to review the presentation, the link is there, and the presentation was also recorded. And if you want me to send that video to you directly, I can look that up and send it to you. So just let me know. All right, the next item on the agenda is the regional sign-up coordination. There's a presentation attached to the agenda, which I think many of you have seen. Happy to bring it up or bring up sections that are of interest to discuss. But this is a topic that many of you have been involved in, and especially through the small operators meetings in terms of aligning signups and coordinating schedules. So I will just open it up to comments and discussion. Rachel.
Yeah, I made this comment in another meeting that many of you were present at, but the one thing, that presentation isn't quite correct in that it indicates that Santa Rosa has already shifted to this regional sign-up schedule. And what happened was there was a different version of this a while back that we took it and ran with it. And then it changed. So we are no longer in alignment with the regional sign-up schedule because it evolved differently than was originally thought. So, I just wanted to highlight that, we're still working on the schedule in coordination with the Sonoma County Transit and Petaluma Transit, where we're doing schedule changes, coordinating schedule changes on the second Saturday of August. That's pretty close. Like that's very close to the regional date. December, March, and June. So right now, the bus operators don't have alignment around the January date, and I'm speaking for everyone. And if that's not correct, someone please jump in and correct me. So I think that is a conversation that we have to have around, pros and cons of that January date in particular and how we all get there. So I just wanted to make that correction and update to the slides that were provided.
So yeah, I reviewed the presentation also and noticed that on page 12 and 14 that Sonoma is not mentioned. So who put the presentation together? Do you know, Dana?
Yeah, it was VTA.
VTA. Okay.
Yeah, they forgot SMART as well, Stephen. So
Did they?
don't take it
Oh, I
personally.
don't feel so bad now.
Yeah, the North Bay only sort of exists. So
Okay.
Usually they forget Santa Rosa, so all's fair.
It's
So
usually always Cloverdale, actually.
yeah. So it's Jay Tyree at VTA specifically.
Okay. Can you provide his contact information? And I'll send an email off to get us included. And then yeah, I'll echo what Rachel had to say about aligning our signups with Petaluma and Santa Rosa, and also Golden Gate Transit. I thought we were trying to include in that effort as well. And this is the first, honestly, this is the first I've heard of this effort. I don't know where I've been, but what is, I'm still trying to wrap my head around exactly what it is. Is it, maybe somebody can explain it to me. Is it like a software that they're going to utilize that helps us?
Not quite. This
Okay.
has been happening at the Blue Ribbon Task Force meetings. That was like at the kickoff of the pandemic that MTC put together, and it's still going on. So that was kind of the impetus for the schedule coordination. And a lot of what driving that was like making sure that, you know, when BART changed its schedule, that the other operators weren't behind when they changed. And then it's just kind of trickled down to all the operators being coordinated on the same thing. And at the time, that's why we're on there with Santa Rosa, because I was in those meetings and said that, yeah, January and August would work, but things have evolved since like 6 months ago, when I feel like they kind of took that information in. So that's kind of where this is coming from. There is some stuff that 511 is doing around taking people's GTFS in and potentially creating an easier way to look at all the connections in the Bay Area, but that's still in a very beta form. But for the most part, it's just like, you know, our schedules change at the same time, and it's up to the operators to talk to each other to say, you know, where are those major connections, and let's make sure that they work when possible.
Got it. So, but it could evolve into utilizing GTFS data as well.
Yeah, I think that's still kind of a long way off, because that's a pretty massive lift.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
there's your background.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.
You know, I just want to add to Stephen, because this was helpful to me in whatever the last discussion that I happened to be in on this, which might have been at the small operators group. That, you know, I think there's a recognition that it may not be perfect, right? Like in Sonoma County, the schools are starting before the second Sunday in August, right? And so we may need to go a week earlier, and that's okay, right? So I think the goal is to try to get to the same schedule change dates in August and January, just have a regional baseline. We can always change more frequently if we need, you know, but just to have 2 times a year that we're making sure that we're all changing at about the same time, but again, with the recognition that it may not be always exactly on the same day for other reasons that are specific to localities. So we'll just add that.
Well, and the second, you know, there's 2 things going on here. They want to coordinate the schedule change dates, right? And then it's also to help, obviously, look at coordinating transfer time. And that's a huge lift that Matt was talking about. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, like I said, the main thing was like the larger operators coalescing around BART. I mean, the diagram, as you can see, BART is the literal center of that universe. So it's more just trying to avoid those situations where the bus departs as the train arrives in the station, kind of situations. And then, as I said, the hope is to like spread that out and then make it more expansive. Not, you know, everyone can't coordinate it. There's no possible way, but like the big connections during the main travel times of the day is what the hope is for the start of this process.
Yeah, I think it's all about the user experience, right? And it's about the user not having to, who rides multiple transit systems, not having to keep track of different systems changing every 6 weeks. And I think that's a good goal for us. I think that in the North Bay, we don't have to be on BART's schedule, but I think we need to coordinate among ourselves. And I'm not 100% convinced that's happening now. So, you know, maybe a good starting place for us would be to decide if we can all get on the schedule, same schedule in the North Bay. and how that relates to the Bay Area wide schedule. We don't need to hinge off BART necessarily, but that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I agree, Emily. And I guess I'm gonna admit that I'm not actually sure of SMART's schedule. So I would love to for changes. So maybe you could fill us in. And then I'd also be interested on Golden Gate side. The small operators meeting, there was some discussion that because the schedule change dates are set by MOU for Golden Gate, that maybe Golden Gate wouldn't be changing until sort of the next CBA negotiation. Or so I don't know, Jacob, if you had any updates on that, but yeah, I'd like, I know where the local bus operators are, but I'm not really clear on where Smart and Golden Gate are.
Yeah, the only thing I have to offer is I know that our general manager, Dennis, has said that he is supportive of coordination, but you know, as always, that it's dependent on future negotiation with unions. So.
SMART doesn't have a set change schedule. At this point, we are changing based on when Golden Gate changes. So for example, we're doing a change on October 3rd, which is a bit of an awkward time to change, but that's when the ferry is changing its schedule. So that's another big issue up here, is that the ferry and the Golden Gate bus are on different change schedules, and that we react to both of those, right? And I'm aware that at this point in the North Bay, we don't have many timed local bus connections to SMART, but that could change. And it would be nice to be able to coordinate that.
So I guess then in light of that, I mean, is Golden Gate, is like Golden Gate the entity that kind of needs to move before the rest of us all coalesce, or what is the thought process around kind of where do we go next?
I think, you know, maybe we need to talk about this with Dave Davenport here, or he needs to check in with Ron, but maybe the bus first, and then we can deal with the ferry. I'm not sure, Jacob, if you want to. I'm not speaking for Golden Gate. I just know that Dave has been the point person on this.
Yeah, I really have to defer to have this kind of out of my wheelhouse. But again, I'm sorry that he can't be here this morning, but I know he'll be willing to chip in and discuss, you know, the next opportunity.
Well, I think one of the questions for David is, how realistic is it to have the ferries and the buses change at the same time? I mean, that would make a huge
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the August 10th Transit Technical Advisory Committee. Go ahead and get started with introductions. I will read off the names
yourself, please.
that I see on the participant list.
This is like Groundhog Day.
That was on. Okay.
Sorry about that.
I thought that was playing on my computer, so I was very confused. All right.
So yeah, my point was the ferries and the buses for Golden Gate, if they could change at the same time. It seems like that's high priority.
I'm writing this down. I'm going to pass this along to to planning.
Well, and the other part of that, I get SMART's need to connect to the ferry, but how many routes is Golden Gate even running? That, like, why would that be the linchpin for any of the other planning? Not to put too fine a point on it, but you all run a lot more routes than they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Emily.
Right.
No, absolutely. You know, I'll just say from SMART's perspective, we get a lot of criticism on how well we do or do not connect to the 101 bus or the 580 bus. They are important regional connections, but the ridership is very small in them. It's very low. Marin Transit and Santa Rosa City Bus are easily running more riders than Golden Gate right now. So yeah, it's a great point.
And SMART is still running off the Golden Gate pulses, right? Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, and Suzanne, and answer to your question, I mean, I guess I was just thinking of it, because, SMART has this obligation to connect with the bus and the ferry. And, we obviously want to coordinate with SMART, but, SMART's got to coordinate. And then Golden Gate doesn't have as much flexibility as the rest of us in terms of when changes occur, just because it is written into, the dates are apparently written into their MOU. So, my thought process was that is kind of a linchpin just to get us all on the same schedule, because otherwise, the ferry is going to keep changing in October, which is not a time any of the rest of us would change it. But I mean, I do think what we do have happening is we've got some of us coordinated, but it's just a little bit out of step with the other two. But maybe as we follow
So
up on this and get a little more clarity on Golden Gate's schedule for both bus and ferry. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Sue.
Yeah, no, I mean, it just seems like the fair, okay, so it's written into the MOU, at some point, perhaps change the MOU, because everybody else is being affected by that one decision point in a manner in which is unproductive. So someone needs to move, and it seems like the one entity should, as opposed to everybody else.
I have one more small point related to this. We're working with MTC to put some regional signage up at our stations. And one component of that, which you're probably familiar with from regional hubs in the city and other places, is that they incorporate the schedule. And the schedule is not only of SMART, but of all the connecting operators, right? So you can know where the buses are and how to get on them when you get to the station. Evidently, these are all based on GTFS. But, a reprinting has to happen as often as the schedules change, right? That's the risk of posting printed schedules. And so that, when I asked MTC about that, right, well, gosh, who handles all this reprinting? They said, this is one reason we're trying to get everyone on the same change schedule, to cut back on the constant GTFS updates and reprinting of regional hub signage. So that's some more background.
Good point, Emily. Good point.
Would there be value in continuing this discussion at our meeting next month? Okay. And it seems like this is a long-term project, and we can keep talking about it. And it'd be useful to have David Davenport in the conversation as well. All right.
And we can get the updated slides.
Yes. Yes. All right. Moving on. The next item on the agenda is transit integration updates. I know that the local bus operators have been working on a fare free day coordination for October 5th. Maybe some others are as well. And I will just open it up if anybody has anything larger that they want to bring up about either more local coordination or things that are going on at the region or with the network management. All right. If not, I'll also just mention that we do have a Future of Transit ad hoc coming up October 3rd. So we'll be preparing for that meeting and preparing some updates for that. And is there anything else that anybody wants to discuss on this item? All right. Then let's move on to transit operator updates. Rachel, would you like to start with City Bus?
Sure, and I'll have Matt chime in as well. And just a couple quick things for us. Last night at our city council, we made a change to our wage structure. So we're eliminating the trainee wage and starting all new hires at the starting wage for bus operators. And so this is a recruitment strategy. As I think probably everyone's aware, we continue to really struggle with bus operator recruitment. And so that will increase the starting pay by like almost $5 an hour. So we're hoping that that will give us some additional ability to get folks into the recruitment pipeline. That kind of brings us up, I think, to where Petaluma is now and the Marin operators and Sonoma County Transit. So I think it actually puts us very much in alignment with the other operators in the region. Golden Gate, of course, being a little bit higher for starting wage. So, you know, we'll see how that plays out. I'd also be interested in knowing, as we will go around, if anyone's considering any type of incentives, hiring bonuses, referral bonuses, that sort of thing. Or maybe you're contractors or you already have them in place. And then our electric buses are arriving in 2 weeks. So it's been a really long road to get to this point, but we're super excited. So lots going on to get ready for the training of our fleet staff, as well as our operators, and a couple staff are going down for the pre-delivery inspection next week. So that's super exciting. And then I'll let Matt's got the ridership update today. So, or any other data you feel like sharing, Matt, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, just kind of since we started the school year, I won't get into our school ridership because we don't really have a full month of data on that quite yet. But overall ridership, we're up 41% over last August, sorry. So we're back to about 109,000 rides a month. So that's our good news, and that probably a lot of that is the free youth, as the routes that serve high schools are doing the best in our system. But some of our routes that don't serve schools directly are also doing really well. So I guess there's just an increase of demand for whatever reason. We still have to keep cutting service due to lack of drivers, but hopefully, as you know, the topic that Rachel has brought up will help remedy that issue so we don't have to keep cutting service. So good news and bad news on there.
Thanks, Rachel and Matt. Right, Stephen, would you like to give an update on Sonoma County Transit?
Sure. We are happy to announce that our real-time system is almost fully back up and operational. We've still got a few buses out there that don't have the right equipment, but for the most part, we've got NextBus, or UMO, if you'd like to call it that, back up and running. So we're excited about that. And that also helped with our real-time signs. I think we talked about the real-time signs that we are starting to put up around the county through a company called Accentia. And so those are actually doing real-time predictions, which is neat to see. And we've got a meeting with them yesterday, and we're we're looking at ordering actually 10 more signs. And we've got, I think, probably about 4 or 5 out there right now, and we've got locations for another 5, and then an order for another 10. So from maybe 20 of these signs around the county within the next few months. Brian is having a excuse me, a meeting with PG&E here in the next couple of days to talk about capacity for yard charging. And so that's essential for us as we're receiving more electric vehicles. We should be getting 3 more BYDs, I think it was October. I think maybe it was next month, or October or November, that we're going to get 3 more. And then we've got 3 more BYD 35-footers on order, which would be next year. And the reason Brian is not here this morning is because he's got a call with Proterra for some final pricing, hopefully on our 10-bus 40-foot order with them. And let's see, as far as ridership, sorry, I thought I had some ridership numbers. I don't have those, but it's not too different from what it was last month. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. All right, Jacob, do you have an update on Golden Gate Transit?
Yeah, just quickly on ridership, both the bus and ferry had a small uptick in ridership with school back in session. But overall, the numbers are similar to where they were at the beginning of June, before school let out for the summer.
All right, thanks. And Petaluma Transit?
Yeah, thank you, Dana. One of the things that we had last week that several of us attended was a transportation summit with Santa Rosa Junior College. They want to talk about a variety of different transit and really transportation related topics. It was things like the rollout of the new Bay Pass program related to Clipper and how that's going to be enacted. That, of course, is part of the pilot program that Clipper is doing to expand and create a pilot program for institutional passes throughout the Bay Area, including a handful of colleges, a few major employers, and a few affordable housing sites, of which SRJC is a participant. And so we're now all participating in that to continue our existing program we've had ongoing with them for several years. And then they also had questions about how do they best go about, asking for new bus stops, modified bus stops, new bus routes, modification schedules, etc. So we all talked through those different topics. We gave an update in our respective areas and kind of laid out, the framework for how we can communicate on those kind of items going forward. And I'm sure other people may have thoughts on that as well. We've been going through and updating our purchasing policy as per one of the findings with our recent triennial, updating all the clauses and all those type of things. We recently had a kickoff project for our facility electrification. We have a new project manager on board who's helping out with that on the engineering side. And so we'll be doing our procurement of electric buses later this year, I anticipate. So I may reach out to some of you for your kind of thoughts or recent kind of research on that as we get further on into that process. Rachel, to your point, we recently did our wage adjustments, as you know, for our drivers. So I'll send you our wage schedule, and I'd be curious to see what your latest is too, to see how they compare. We've been doing a big hiring push since that point, to make people aware of the revised wages, because similar to you, and I think a lot of the operators throughout the region, ability to hire drivers is a major impediment, making it difficult to run the service we have, let alone expand service. So that's one of the biggest efforts that we're doing a major push in right now. To your question, Rachel, we looked at all the different components of it. We looked at hourly wage, we looked at sign-on bonus, retention bonus. What we kind of felt, in a lot of conversations with our contractor and others that really moved the needle the most was the hourly wage. And so we ran through the gamut of all those different options and weighing what was out there and decided to put the resources that we have towards that item. We used to even have a training wage that we went away from. So pretty much from day one, the wage you start with is the wage you start once you'll be a driver on the route. There's no longer kind of that $200 per hour penalty in effect. So we've hired, a dispatcher started this week, but still looking at several staff. MV's helping us out with a sourcer who's working with us starting this week as well. And then the city is working on a Cal Recycle grant that would provide waste receptacles, things like that throughout the community, working with parks and a few other parts of the city. And then I was wondering, I don't know if Stephen or anyone knows, any updates on the climate resiliency application and when we would potentially be back on that?
Which climate resiliency application?
Were you talking, Stephen? You were muted. Yeah, it was the one that we put forward for the K through 12 PASS program funding.
Yeah.
The fare free proposal?
Yep.
It's Board of Soups or
I think was Brian taking the lead on that?
Yeah, I think I heard last week that he hadn't heard back from the county yet, but was expecting to either this week or next.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Stephen, he was. if successful, we would have funding to provide 2 years worth of free transit K through 12, starting July 1st, 2023.
Yeah, I have new information on that.
And that was it for us.
All right, thanks, Jared. All right, Emily, would you like to give an update on SMART?
Sure. So like I mentioned, we are doing a schedule change. It's October 3rd. It's a Monday, and that lines up with the ferry. The ferry was making a variety of changes, and so we took that chance to the opportunity to make changes as well, since we were going to have to do a reprinting. Let's see. On the weekend, we're moving 3 of our trains forward to meet the ferry better. We're adding midday service, which is a pretty big deal for SMART. We get a lot of requests for midday service. So that's exciting. People can go to lunch and lunch meetings more easily. And then we're also adding a train back in the afternoon, a northbound train in the afternoon, because right now we basically have like a 3 o'clock and a 4 o'clock, and they're both really packed. And so it's going to be coming through around 3:30 now to help with after school and a lot of people who just leave work around that time. So I was on that train yesterday and it was standing room only. Also, Petaluma City Schools changed their release time from 3 to 3:20, which ruined the schedules for a lot of staff and students who need to head back north after school. So we in turn changed our schedule. Let's see, we issued an RFP for that microtransit software as a service. I want to mention that because I know there's some interest in this group. So I'll just keep you posted. We had, I think, 8 or 9 different vendors show up at the pre-bid yesterday. And we just released some new maps of the pathway, which I wanted to show you. I wonder if I can share my screen. Do you have to let me do that, Dana? Let's see.
Yeah. Dana, under the share screen caret, under advanced options, it'll be allow everyone to share.
Sorry, I'm muted. Go ahead and try now, Emily.
Okay, let's see. All right, let's try this. That's the Golden Gate schedule. Here it is. Can you see that smart pathway there? Okay.
Yes.
So I just had to show this off because we made it. Chris made it. So Chris Bearden, our assistant planner. So there's this live version with all this different color coding, and there's a key over here.
Emily,
You can, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but could you bring your page down just a little bit? It seems, oh, I can't quite see it. There we go.
Can't see it. Okay. Can you see it now? Novato, Petaluma,
I can better.
sort of. I'm on a little tiny laptop today. Anyway, you could check it out on the SMART website. There's a big word pathway at the top. And it's just providing a new level of public information because you can see what's built, what's planned, what's funded, and then where the gaps are. All this, the blue is SMART, the blue and green, and then the purple is basically city designated routes that fill in the gap while the pathway is still being constructed. And then down here, hopefully you can see this, there's all these PDF maps that are printable for people. So if you have any interest in the pathway, there it is.
This is great.
Great, Emily. Very cool. I see
Thanks.
this as being super useful and also just for us to, help direct people to other options to connect. So very cool.
Yeah, it's just another step. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks great, Emily. We need to spread the word to all the bike groups out there.
Yeah.
Advisory
Well,
committee.
the bike coalitions reviewed it, but
Okay.
we're starting to get a lot of input from different Petaluma, not Petaluma, the pedestrian and bicycle advisory committees that they've requested to review it, which is great. So if anyone's interested, pass it on to them. And then also certainly if you see any issues with it, let me know. Okay.
Yeah, Emily,
So-
I would love to provide a link to that in our countywide bicycle pedestrian advisory committee agenda that will be coming up soon, if that's okay. Okay, great.
Sure. Mhm. Oh, I guess I should report on ridership as well. Ridership's up. We saw a 17% increase between the first half of August and the second half with students returning to school. And August is up 93% over last August. So it's really, really great ridership return for SMART.
Great, thank you. All right, I think we've covered all the operators. So let's move on to other business comments and announcements. I will just bring one up, and that's that I think a number of you have heard at the Transit Finance Working Group meetings that MTC is working on a zero emissions bus transition strategy. They did reach out to me to get some information about the coordination that has happened in Sonoma County and with the TERSIP application. And we haven't actually had that meeting yet, but just wanted to let you know that there is interest in what's been going on locally from MTC in terms of that study. And so we may, maybe at the next meeting be asking for some updated information from the bus operators on where they are in terms of charging infrastructure and future needs. So just wanted to mention that as a future discussion item. Does anybody have any other announcements or comments? All right, then. We will see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Dana.
Bye.
That's so weird that I wasn't able to reclaim the host and do any of that.
Isn't there a way I could send it? Oh, I'll stop recording.
No. We'll have Ross trim it. No, it was really weird that because normally when I sign in, it'll be